you're excused. 'Cause you're always late, overweight, and totally rude, honey.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to podcast number 9. Go on, sorry. Yeah.
We were talking about somebody that I really enjoy listening to, and some people don't like him, but I think he's great, Jordan Peterson. And he's an academic that is sort of in your face. And if you're a creative person, you're going to love this guy because he says things like this. Not everybody's creative. Very few people in the world are truly creative. And I'm just going, thank you. I've sort of known that my whole life, but I got to sit back and listen to some jerk, or some woman that made a pot when she was in the 5th grade, tell me how creative she is, and she's never done a thing the rest of her life, But
And talk about how you just need to open your third eye, get zen, do yoga, and your creativity will spiral.
Yeah, you're just gonna be and what I found is being creative is like it's kind of like being um it's kind of like a guy that carries nitroglycerin to the factory and back, between the truck and back. Nobody gives a shit about it. You get blown up, but you're always carrying the nitro, So if you're creative, you go off on tangents. You may not stick with something very long. You get divorces, you get, because
you're all over the place. You got the
you're
bug.
all over the place. And it's not that you're mean or anything, but you get bored, a lot. And I just noticed I've changed careers 5 times. Most people don't change careers their whole life. Most people haven't moved out. Like I got to talk with my high school history teacher, and he still remembers me. He remembers where I sat and everything. And he told me that most of the kids that graduated from our high school live within about 30 miles of the high school, of the town.
Really?
People don't, if you start checking, the roster at your reunions, a lot of them still never left town. They settled down, married little Betty Sue, and then they named their kids, Tyler and Logan, and then
Isn't Logan the name of your kid?
I know I named it. Logan. I couldn't help it. I just throw myself in.
Logan, you got named twice. You're also the imaginary kid.
Well, there's a perfect example of somebody who's creative who is pissed off. My son, and he's pissed off because he sees his friends who are not creative have got these jobs that either their parents gave them or they've stuck with it since ever. Well, he's got a master's degree. He's a smart kid, but he loves to go surfing every day. He's got to have, those kinds of risk. He's got to take risk every day or he's not happy, and then he gets mad because he can't figure out why, he doesn't own his own home and, doesn't have, $1 million company. Well, he's not willing to do what it takes to have $1 million company, and unfortunately he hasn't, and I'll tell this to his face, but he wants to know more, but it's the distraction keeps him from sitting down to learn more. We still have discussions about how to do his taxes, and he's 33,
To be fair, I don't even know how to do my taxes.
Okay, most people don't. I've had to learn how because it's just I've done them for so long, and you find it's much easier to have a system and hire the right, hire a smart accountant.
Yeah, but you're also a dad, and I feel like everybody goes to their dads to learn taxes.
Yeah, I know that's one of our great job,
knowledge of just instant taxes.
Yeah, and you want to turn your kids off. Say the word sex and watch him. Yeah, just go out of the room. Does not want to hear anything that from a parent about that. But taxes or fixing the car or how to paint something. I'm really interested. But this thing about I would recommend everybody at least watch that first video that you sent me, Jordan Peterson's. Is it The Curse of Creativity?
Yeah, The Curse of Creativity. It's like 6 minutes long. I'll link it on our Reddit.
And
so good.
You could get into it and like like it or not, and some people think, like you said, that they think he's a racist or think he's a white supremacist. He's none of that stuff.
Yeah.
He's just super honest.
Mhm.
Like people, like this one
He
woman.
refuses to change his language about things, and he talks about people real clinically. So
He's smart.
he's
Freaking
yeah.
smart. He's,
He's
you know,
he's
one of the,
brilliant. He sounds like he's a national Canadian treasure. That's what I like
yeah,
to
he's
call him.
probably has an IQ of 180. Who knows?
Yeah.
He's way up there. But one of the things he said about creative people is they're highly intelligent. And he just talks about the curse of it. Like he said something that here's why a lot of people will not like him. If you think that you're going to get published writing, a book, your first book out the door, you have just you have no idea how difficult it is. It's damn near impossible. And I tried to tell people, I mean, I've been lucky because I've published a lot of books and I act like it's no big thing. I've worked my ass off, to do
Yeah.
that.
It's no
I've
small
had to do,
feat.
huh?
It's no small feat. Not
It's no small
everybody's
feat.
published.
And I got to be honest with you, in all my years of life, which is a lot of years, I've never met another writer like me that is actually doesn't have another job but writing. That's all I've done for the last 30 years. And before that, I mean, I'd never written anything. Before that, I was a stockbroker. I was,
Yeah.
a soldier. I was, worked in the Forest Service. I was, milked cows. I did every kind
Yeah.
of, Joe jobs that there were, and have an extensive collection of T-shirts and hay hooks, from
It's great though.
jobs. But oh my God, um, it's just refreshing to hear somebody. Oh, here's what it is: somebody that has an academic credential. I mean, I don't have a PhD. I've got a master's degree. Whoopity doo. That doesn't mean a lot to some people, but in academia, a PhD is, to them that's the pinnacle. So great. We've
Yeah.
got an advocate that that is saying things that if I said it or you said it, they would go, "Oh, you're just saying that because
Yeah.
you want to sound like it's so hard." Well, duh,
Yeah.
it it is hard. By the way, there's another guy. I want to grab this book. Speak amongst yourself.
Well, ta.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I'm
So
speaking in my own language.
I
Us
know.
creatives, we just
So
can't stop inventing.
there's another guy. There's another doctor's name is Liam Hudson, and he wrote not just this book, which
The
is
Cult of
Cult of
Fad.
Facts, but he also, his first book is, I just ordered it again. This is the third time I bought this book, but it is called Contrary Imagination, Frames of Mind. And it's a book about human intelligence. And I learned about that book by listening to um, Malcolm Gladwell in Blink. And he was talking and he said, yeah, sometimes you'll find, these obscure books. Well, that book on contrary imagination blew my mind because it basically said that, if you, the guys that were the most creative, and what he did was he did his PhD in Edinburgh, and which is Scotland, but he went all around all over England and everything to all these boys' schools and and found and for his PhD and found some interesting correlations. And one was the guys that scored the highest on the entrance exams were the least creative, and the guys that were the most creative couldn't get into colleges, couldn't get into Cambridge, which was the school that he went to. Well, this book, he talks about him getting about his luck of getting through. He almost flunked out of Cambridge. He almost flunked out of the other super impressive school that he went to, but once he, is a smart guy, obviously, and once he got through, then he had that credibility to move on. But this is kind of what I saw as the purpose of this podcast. It's not so much to bring in a bunch of different people like we were doing, but it's if bring them in if they can give us little tidbits and secrets, like how do you get through the university? How do you get through all of that stuff, and not just by luck, but because you, as this Jordan Peterson said, you know, you the best thing a creative person could do is get another job, you know, get a job and then do their art or their songs or any of that, you know, ask
Just so you don't starve.
so you don't starve. I mean, I remember there's a couple, and they're both of them were attorneys, and they moved to Ojai, and they were going to become, you know, they were going to write novels and be this famous novelist and stuff. And that lasted about 3 years. They never got anything published. They ended up getting divorced, and they went back to work as, you know, you know, as attorneys, you know, and moved back, you know, to wherever the hell they came from. But people have this fantasy of the writer, you know, and he's got the, you know, the big, uh, what's the dog with the long red hair that, you know, this beautiful dog that sits on the couch while they write,
Yeah.
you know, or some cat.
They're writing by the window and the
They're
sea breeze
writing by the
wafts
window,
in and they just have this
and
amazing
there's a
idea.
steaming cup of coffee right next to
Yeah.
you, and you
Or
know,
tea if you're
tea,
British.
maybe a
Yeah.
glass of wine after you get through a hard day of writing.
Yeah.
In
The bubble
reality,
baths.
yeah, in reality, the guys that I know, there's a pile of cigarettes piled up, you know, cigarette butts piled up, and a bottle of whiskey because they're so depressed, you know, they can't get through anything, and they're just, you know, pulling their hair out trying to, and then they can't figure out why, you know, they can't find a publisher to get their book, and their life is miserable. I mean, I've got a friend that's, he's like way better writer than I'll ever be, and he even knows how to spell and type and everything. He actually helped me with my second and third or fourth book. My the book about, it was called First Time Investor. He would
Wow.
type and I would speak, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I literally wrote this book. This is my first business book. I wrote it in 1 week. I went up to Idlewild and I rented a cabin, got him to go with me, and we'd work together in Vietnam, so we could work, you know, like get up at 5 o'clock, and I'd get up and we'd make breakfast, and then we'd start, and I literally would just walk, you know, pace around, and just, you know, get pissed off about what I saw about in the investing world, and then he would, you know, he would be writing, and then he'd ask me questions, and we literally, by the end of the week, we had 350 pages. Like, I remember him holding it up and he goes, wow, this has some heft to it, but don't get too excited. No one's going to publish it. That's what he said. And I went, nah, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to it. I never listened to anybody like that. I have my own secret for getting published. I go out and find a book that I like, or say a book that I've got a similar book. Say if it's a business book, you know, it would be a McGraw-Hill type book, or, you know, a book like this. And if you open up the inside cover, you find out that, you know, the name of the publisher, there it is, you know, and you, lots of times in the back or in the forward, they will say, you know, I really appreciate all the help that Abigail Smith gave me in her edit, you know, in bringing this book to. So I write a letter to Abigail Smith and say, hey, I've got a similar book. Would you like to look at it? Bang. And that worked. So I literally sent it. Yeah, I literally sent it
Wow.
to 3 publishers, 2 great big ones, and then one that wasn't big, but it ended up being McGraw-Hill. It was a smaller publisher. I can't even remember the name of it, but that evolved. They bought that, and then that one was bought by Time Warner or something, and Time Warner sold it. Then ended up, you know, Random or McGraw-Hill bought it. So it was amazing. At one time, I'd go into the bookstore in the business section. I had a bestseller, The First Time Investor, and I look over into the nonfiction section under Vietnam, and it was Recondo. So I'd have, you know, 2 books, and I thought, this is easy. I'll just, you know, crank these things out, send them out, you know. Yeah. So I didn't have, you know, he had actually written his first book was called Tiger the Lurk Dog, and it was a fictional story about this dog that was our dog in Vietnam. and he got it published by Random House. So he had a connection, and that's how I got in there. So one of my friend, he recommended Gary Linder, send his book into this editor, and he does. And so Linder had asked me about some episode, some combat thing that I was in, and I wrote 30 pages and sent it to him. First time I ever wrote 30 pages without somebody heavily editing it. And then he said, "Wow, this is really good. You should send this in to my editor at Random House." And so I got it edited, and I sent it I sent it like priority mail or something, or FedEx or whatever, but I sent it on Tuesday, and he got it on Thursday. He called me Thursday and said, "Hi, my name's Owen Locke. I want to buy your book." And that, he goes, "I'm the editor at Random House." And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Do you have it? How much do you have it done?" I go, "Oh, it's pretty much done." He goes, "Nah, you don't have it pretty much done." He says, how much time do you need to get it finished?" I said, "I don't know, a few weeks or a month." He goes, "Now, I know you're bullshitting me. You don't have it done," which was true. I only had 30 pages. And B, I didn't know how long it would take. These are traits of the dyslexic person. I underestimate and overestimate all the time. I don't know how long something's going to take. I think it took a year. He gave me a year, and it took a year, to get it all written and edited and everything.
But in your mind, it's all there. So
of course,
yeah.
Yeah, and I would see, and that
You're
was a
like,
good
I
thing.
could just put that on paper and it equals book.
Yeah, yeah. I would go down to, nobody told me to do any of this. I just figured it out on my own. But I thought, wow, if I'm going to write a scene about walking in combat, I should go down to the river. We have in Ojai, there's a little river creek with weeds that look, tangled and everything. And I would go down early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, when the sun was still just coming up, or 5:30, and walk in that kind of jungly thing, and come back and, or I would tape it as I walked along, what it looked like, what it felt like crossing a stream in the early morning. And the sun was just starting to shine, reflect off the water, and, the sounds.
Yeah.
So it was great. I just duplicated, so that Vietnam book I wrote in Ojai, in the Ojai woods, for my jungle scene.
But it's Vietnamese, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's. I feel like the farmers. I kind of blame them, because there's like this gatekeeping with describing things where it has to all be from your own head. You can't go look at anything else. You can't go experience anything else. You have to like write it just from sitting in like a dark room from your imagination, right? Like you can't. Like if you were to draw a painting, like if you were to look at something while you were drawing it, it'd be less than if you
Who's
just
telling you this? When you say farmers, who's telling you this? Like teachers?
Just not teach. Well, yeah. It's just like the attitude of like I guess it comes from my generation if you don't feel it, because I don't know, like so many artists online, like people insult you, or not insult you, but criticize you if you use references or anything like that.
Well, first
Like,
of all, I wouldn't have anything to do with those people. One of the things that this Jordan Peterson said was something that I learned a long time ago is, you need to weed out people. Like I would have a success, and I had this one friend that would just always put me down. And anytime I ever had a success, he put the success down, and I got rid of him. I finally had to tell him, get out of my house. I'm never going to talk to you again, because he would just insult me. And for some reason, I thought I had to take it, like that's all part of that curse of that suffering, So you want to have people that promote you, and first of all, anybody that would tell you that it's all comes from your head and you can't do all this, that's a bullshit story. That's somebody who is not creative, because somebody who's creative is doing something that's never been done before. That's the essence of creativity. The essence of creativity is to take something from here and put it over there and make something new of it. Well, how are you going to do that if you're not allowed to go outside? It's like
if you
such
can't look at
bullshit.
the world, how can you write your own world,
Yeah.
Like,
If you can't, and most of those people like your age, they really don't have that much experience yet. You're still getting
yeah,
experience. How many divorces have you had?
exactly.
None,
Yeah.
hopefully never, but I've had three. Okay. I'm kind of an expert on emotional trauma, after three divorces.
Yeah.
I help a family every month in my Cambodian family, and I send quite a bit of money to them every single month, and I mean enough for six people.
Yeah.
Even though it's Cambodia, the prices are still high, but it's it it's I forgot where I was going with this. What were we
Yeah.
talking about?
We were talking about people kind of gatekeeping art, and you're not allowed to have worldly experiences, or you're not allowed to
Oh,
reference the
yeah.
whatever.
Well, what I was going to reference, I sort of got off on the topic of that, but I looked at myself as I'm well trained to support a family in Cambodia, like donate money to a family because I've done spousal support and child support on my divorces. So I'm already pre-trained. But this time I get to choose the family that I get to support. It's not like some court is saying you've got to, pay, you know, $5,000 a month to an ex-wife. I mean, I get to, you know, I don't have to do that, but I'm trained at it.
Mhm.
It's like I I didn't understand the concept of tithing, and in most religions have tithing, and that just means you give, like if you're a Mormon, you give 10% of what you earn to the church for tithing. Well, I always thought that's ridiculous. I can't, I give 10% to myself, or I didn't, what
Yeah.
value is that? Well, in a way, my donating, it's about 30% of what I make, I donate.
Yeah.
I get so much value out of that. If I and I've never missed a donation. I've never gone without by helping somebody else. I mean, I not only do I
It's
get
like
this,
spiritual value,
it's
not
almost
just like,
spiritual.
yeah.
It's spiritual, and I get such a great feeling out of helping this family in particular, and I've got a whole bunch of other little projects I haven't even thought about, but they're still out there that I support,
Yeah.
and it's that's the person. This is the person that I've wanted to become. And it's another thing this Jordan Peterson talks about. He talks about write out your story and make yourself a hero in your story. I'm the hero in my story.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the hero for that family. They just they think I'm a hero, and they were poor, and I've moved them, literally up into middle class. And the one girl now is she's starting her second year at rural university, and
Mhm.
and she's studying criminal law this year. And
What
I've
does
got
she
a
want to
little.
be?
I'll tell you what she wants to be. I'll read it to you from her letter. See what I do to do. What I do with. Um, oh, here we go. Thank you so much for all. She she wrote this on the paper. Thank you so much for all that you give some money for me. I'm so happy to see all of you can help me out, and I promise to try more to study. Remember, she's writing in a second language, and she's this young girl that's just learned English in the last couple of years. When
Yeah.
I'm finished school for 4 years, I can find a good job for myself and my family. I want to be a lawyer in the future. Okay,
Well,
how many poor girls in Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Burma, Thailand, whatever, have a goal of being a lawyer? That's like, what?
yeah. They
For
don't
a
have that
poor,
opportunity.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that it works, this is a sustainable thing because she'll take, they're very strong about family. There is no retirement fund. There is no spousal support. There is no child support in Cambodia. When the guy gets through with his wife, he just leaves. He finds another younger woman and goes as a kid. It's terrible. Men are,
Yeah.
that is a patriarchal society of tyrants from the prime minister all the way down. I don't like the men, most of them, but
Yeah.
I love the women. I think they're beautiful and they're kind and they're family oriented and they're the center of the family. And that daughter, when she will do that, she'll make sure the next sister, she goes to school and gets her, and the next one will help the next one, and then they'll support. And I got a letter that said, don't worry, when you get old, I take care of you. I didn't ask
Oh,
for that. I'm not asking for that, but great.
but you have somewhere to go when you're
I just
old.
go back.
You don't have to go in a home.
I know. Finally, I'm so glad I don't have to go in a home.
Yeah. That was my grandpa's only wish, is that we wouldn't stick him anywhere.
Yeah, who wants to be in a home? I don't.
Yeah, I hope I don't get in a home. I'm gonna have some kids, and hopefully they'll like me enough to
but you
care
keep
of
wearing
me.
those earphones. You're headed for a home.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they'll be like, "Okay, mom, that's cringy.
Yeah,
We don't want you here."
Oh, so here's what I wrote down for today. But I thought, one of the things, and I wish Kristen was here because I want her input in this too. But first, there's structure, and I've sent this to you before, but this is my daily structure. I have to live by a schedule, and I have to remember this, or I'll just go out and
I feel like
change my tires or something.
I feel like that's what's missing from my life, because I've been trying to structure my life now that, because the second you get into college, it's all you make your own, because school kind of does it for you the whole 6 hours. And now that I'm kind of figuring it out by myself, like if I don't have any obligations, I don't really have a reason to get out of bed earlier than like noon.
Have you written out a 3-year goal?
I haven't. I haven't. I keep trying to, and I get halfway through, and it's like.
Do you know why you don't? I can tell you why.
Why?
Well, if you write your goal and you don't make it, you're going to feel bad about it. So most people don't do that. They'd rather stay vague about everything and not really have a firm goal. But I mean, I've got goals that I wrote. I keep like, here's one that I love this one. I wrote this in 1990.
1990?
Yeah,
Oh
and I
my
still
God.
kept it. I don't know if you can see it. But if you look at what I'm saying, I don't know if you can read it or not.
3 books published.
Yeah, 3 books. I wrote that in 1990. I'd never written anything. I'd never written a book. I wrote House in the Mountains Ski Resort. I've had that before. 3 books published. Feeling of well-being at home, feeling of excitement at home and with my family. Body and shape, excellent health, pain-free. I used to feel pain all the time from being an athlete when I was younger. Find one thing fun, exciting to do every day. Master the word. Listen to this. I swear to God. Master the word processor. You still had word processor. I didn't even have a computer. The word processor.
Word processor. Oh my God.
Yeah, we even talked like that because we had to use D-base. D. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, ski one resort every month.
6 years before I was born.
Surprise myself with what I can accomplish. Find people who support my goals. Live with peace and happiness in my family. New clothes, furniture for family. 3-year goal is a publishing and productive publishing company set in the mountains like a lodge where writers and artists can live and work. Create books and articles that make a difference in people's lives. And it's just, I wrote this my 1-year goal for 1990, and I was like, oh my God, I was 43 years old. I wrote that down. So I was 43. And I hit every one of those goals. I mean, it's amazing, but there's something about writing them down and yeah, I don't even have to keep looking at it. I just wrote it down and I stick it in here, stick it away. But
Yeah.
I keep that as a reminder how important it is, every year or every so often to sit down and really write your goals. If you don't know the direction of where you're going, I mean, I can't believe this isn't required in colleges, but how in the shit do you think you're going to end up with a nice retirement, a family, live in comfort and have a home and all of these things unless you're going in that direction. You know, if you're all over the place, you're going to constant. And this is again, this is for the this is back to the creatively unworthy. It's our biggest problem is how do you keep from going all over the place? Well, Jordan says it really simple: grow up. Grow up. I mean, that's a hard thing for people to hear. It's why a lot of people don't like him. But it's like you got to grow up, take responsibility. Doesn't mean you have to act like an old person or an asshole, but it just means if you're going to become a writer and make your living at it, you're gonna. That's a big responsibility to make money and find the time to do it and all the things it's going to take. You know, learn the word processor. I just love that I wrote that down. I mean, nobody even says that anymore.
I don't even know exactly what a word processor is.
It's a computer. It's a computer.
computer?
We called them word processors back in the day. You know, when the Apple
That's
first
so
came out.
vintage.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome, though.
So anyway, I've sent this to you before, but this I have to look at. It's worn. I have to put tape on it because I wear it out. But I have to remember. I have to read this about once a day almost my whole life, and it goes like this. Start my day off by finding out what information others need, and during the day, you know, get focus on my strengths. And then number one, have everything ready before beginning a task. So if you looked at my office, or if I just showed you over there at my desk, it see, it's super clean. Everything's on the wall. I know exactly where things are and what I'm going to do because I've had to. Okay, I don't like to, but I have to clean it up at night. I have to do all that, you know.
Yeah. Or
Eliminate.
you'll lose track of everything.
Oh yeah, eliminate unnecessary information. That's a biggie. You know, all those distract. You got 25 things because if you're creative, this shit's hitting your mind like that. I can think of 50 things. You know, so you got to eliminate the unnecessary. And then this one is give yourself a deadline. That's big for me. Put things in time.
I I I can't give myself a deadline on things because
You
I
can if you make it fun. Deadline sounds like drop dead, like dead.
yeah.
But a deadline just means, see, the next part of it is race to try to hit your deadline. You know, in other words, I'm trying to create dopamine. I know what I need to be creative. I can either take drugs or do things. Go like I run, I go outside, I work out, I lift weights, I swim, I move, I move, I move. That creates dopamine. I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to create more dopamine. Well, why do you think people procrastinate? Why do students
'Cause
procrastinate?
there's no dopamine in
There's
where
no
they're going.
dopamine. They wait to the last minute, and there's a ton of dopamine, and you will stay up all night long, you know, studying your thing because if you don't, you're going to flunk out. Man, that is a great motivator. Being in combat is one of the best dopamine creators. If you're surrounded by a bunch of guys that are trying to kill you with machine guns, you got a ton of dopamine going, you know, no
Yeah.
problem.
I bet, or you'll die.
So my next one is make time for thinking, learning, personal awareness. So that's make time for watching guys like Jordan Peterson or whoever else it might be.
Yeah.
Create an
Listen to
environment
it while doing chores. It's great.
create an environment that nurtures you and allows you to be yourself. So you want your environment. One of the other things I loved, he said, and the other thing about creative people, their walls will probably, if they're artists, will be covered with paintings. Look at my walls. My walls are covered with paintings. Every
Yeah.
inch of the whole place has has paintings. So I'm like, yes, he's my guy. He's speaking. He was really speaking to me. Communicate your goals to others. Well, I'm telling you what my goals are. You know, I tell you what my goals are, what I'm up to, what I'm trying to do. Skip. Here's. Remember, I said create a deadline. Skip from one thing to the next without finishing what you started. Okay, so it's kind of a. I thought you said created a deadline. Yeah, but I'm going to skip around because I got a lot of. I want to keep.
I love that because it gets boring. Just if you know you're just working on that same project day after day, it's
Yeah.
like
And you got to take time to do nothing once you finish something. So now what I'm going to add is something that Jordan talked about, but is you got to stay healthy. And that means not, drink in moderation, do drugs in moderation, do whatever you're going to do in moderation, and not, and you can't support your creative habit if you're not healthy. And a lot of people think that writers just sit and get fat and,
They look like the guy who wrote Game of Thrones. No hate on that guy, but he looks like
yeah,
needs exercise.
you got to exercise, because later in life, when you get my age, you want to still be able to be vibrant and think. And when people just sit home, watch television, it's the quickest way for the muscle called the brain to atrophy, and you get dumb. And I don't want to get dumb any dumber than I already am. Oh, here's one that you brought up. I thought was a good one to how you'll hear. Okay, first of all, clap your hands, jump up and down really quick, because you almost fell asleep.
No, I didn't almost fall asleep.
Yes, I saw you yawn.
I drank a whole cup of coffee and then I sat down, and for some reason it makes me feel tired. It's like if I'm not moving, I'm sleepy.
I can tell you why, but you could go on on YouTube and look up this thing about fasting, and you really explain why drinking that coffee makes you tired. You think you're ramped up.
It gives you energy for like 45 minutes, and then for the rest of the time it just
it's pretty much just it's
drains
a habit.
you.
Yeah. Better to drink tea, but I like coffee too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also feel like it's an ADHD thing that if you're not moving, you get kind of tired,
Yeah, true.
Go on though. I actually really want to hear the rest of the list.
Okay.
And I want you to take a picture so we can put it on our Reddit so other people can absorb the information too.
What you always hear, like one of my favorite mythologists is Joseph Campbell. He talks about following your bliss. We talked about that in one of the earlier podcasts. Well, following your bliss is really just following the thing that makes you happy, your art or whatever it is that you're doing. But one of the things that Peterson said was he didn't quite agree with just the pure following the bliss, because that's like those two lawyers I told you about that moved to Ojai following their bliss, and they're going to be writers, and it didn't work out. You got to follow your bliss, but you got to be smart about it.
Yeah.
And what that really means.
To be sustainable.
Yeah. And what following your bliss means, if I'm writing and I've set it up where I get a lot of constant little feedbacks. Like one of the things that I always did when I wrote books, like I was writing 5 books a year, but I was writing 3 columns in a magazine a month. So sometimes 5 columns. So each time I got an article done, I got a hit, a dopamine, serotonin, whatever the hell it was. I got a hit off of it. So, you write the book, it's a year to write it, a year to get it, find a publisher, another year by the time it comes out. It's a 3-year process. That's a
lot of delayed.
Long delay. Well, you want to create a lot of little hits along the way. And what Joseph Campbell was saying is, if you're following your bliss, you're always going to generate, these good feelings about what it is that you do. When I'm writing, if I'm writing a screenplay, for example, I'll get lost in it. I'm creating the movie. I'm lost. I look up and hours go by, and it's so much fun. Now, will I sell the screenplay? I don't know. I've actually sold the screenplay, so I've got a good possibility I'll sell another one. But what following your bliss for me means is I get those little hits of serotonin along the way, which makes me feel good about what it is I'm doing, Okay. Yeah. The other, so there's that. And then, who are you? Now this comes from somebody completely, this is a billionaire that gave his secrets about what, how to become really rich. But he said, the best indicator of your future wealth is to look at your friends. Your friends are your best predictor of success. So if you're around a bunch of losers, pretty much you might as well figure you're not ever going to really amount to a whole lot. But if your friends are smart, just like your dad, like I think of all of my friends, most of my friends are doctors, professionals, CEOs, heads of companies,
Yeah.
athletes, uh, superstar, former Ranger, these guys that are high level. That's great because when you're around those people, it sort of motivates you to be great or to do the best.
Yeah. It's like competitive, but like in a healthy way where like
Yeah,
you want to be able to talk about stuff with your friends like that.
exactly. And um, and you should take the time to write about who it is that you want to be. Write who that person is. Do you want to be somebody that um, makes enough money that they can be a philanthropist? I mean, I like saying that word, being a philanthropist. I want to be one. I want to be somebody that, and like I thought, wow, I could write a book on poor man's guide to being a philanthropist, which is an oxymoron. I'm the poor man's guide because I don't have billions of dollars or millions of dollars that I could just give it all away, but I've figured out a system to support and create my own charities in a way.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, your
cool.
family that you're supporting in Cambodia is like proof enough. I mean,
Yeah. And I'll probably will write. I mean, I'm going to write that down when we get through Poor Man's Guide to Philanthropy, because it's an interest. It's a kind of a title that would catch somebody because it's what? How could that be? So that was kind of my new list of practices or things that you should practice or could practice.
I like that.
Do you have anything you
That
want to add or ask
uh,
questions about?
yeah. It I Every time you ask me what I want to add, I always feel like all of a sudden everything I was thinking about goes out the window. Or
Okay.
maybe it's just being on camera. I don't know. Used to get real stage
Well,
frighty. But it makes me think about what I want to do and who I want to be because I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I've been listening to a lot of people like Jordan Peterson, and then we have these Zooms and stuff. And I don't think it's enough that I just want to do art because, like, what is that? I mean, where am I going? Do I want to be an author? Do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be
poet, poet.
poet? Do I want to whatever? I started um on a book the other day. It's my little black book with my poems in it and short stories.
Right.
And I put together everything, all the random little things that I wrote throughout the year together. And it's like a almost enough to be an actual book. If I edit it and add like, I don't know, handful more poems, and there I go.
Yeah.
But
And how hard was that to
yeah.
do that? How
It
hard?
it took me like an afternoon. It was stuff I've already written throughout the year, stuff I wrote for classes, stuff I wrote because I just had some random idea, just like fun things, and it got me really excited to think about writing again. But
Wow.
then every time I think about sitting down and actually editing that, I'm like,
Hmm.
I feel like I have that wall, like
Well, that's the critical
like
voice.
I I,
That's
I
your
need
farmer
a
voice. We
aim.
should call it. We should call it your hunter voice and your farmer voice because we have
Yeah,
it. The farmer
yeah,
voice is the critical voice. You can't do that. What that? That's
yeah.
wrong. I mean, oh my God! What? Look at you misspelled this. And it's if you examine that voice, if you really listen to it and become aware of it, it ain't you. It might be
Yeah.
your mother. It might be your father. It might be some
Yeah.
teacher.
Your
It's
your
somebody.
critical peers at school,
Our critical peers. It's
Yeah.
somebody, I've got this friend that's no longer a friend anymore, but I can't, I mean, he almost spent a good part of our growing up making sure that I felt unworthy and like a failure, you know,
Yeah.
that was, I
Friends
was
like
his,
that, you don't need enemies.
you don't know,
Yeah.
and it's amazing that I kept him for a friend for so long until he insulted what I was doing in Cambodia. And then I just went, okay, you can insult me because I'm worthless, but you insult my Cambodian, you're fucking out of here. You know, I don't ever want to talk to him again. But I started looking at how self-centered that person is and how they were actually pulling off my energy, you know, to feed their own, you know, their own.
Yeah.
You
Jordan
know?
Peterson actually kind of talks about that in the sense of like he uses the Cain and Abel story that a lot of people are like Cain, where other creative people, other really successful people around them are like, you know, they're more are like Abel, like you love, they're your ideal and they're who you want to be, and they're like, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. But at the same time, it makes you angry because you're not that. And of course, you could work harder, or you could kill that person off in your mind, or like bring them down to your level, you know, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
There's a
Yeah.
really funny story that Steve Martin was on when Steve Martin was on Saturday Night Live is you know, he's done a whole bunch of stuff on Saturday Night Live, but he was on it with Bill Murray, and they were playing. Um, Bill Murray was the they were like grog, you know, and Bill Murray was the really smart, was the smart guy, and Steve Martin was the was was one of the dumber guys, and everybody it showed them all listening to grog, you know, listening to Bill Murray, you know, who was grog, and he was giving all these, you know, he was, oh, you're the smartest in the village. And so one night when Grog was sleeping, Steve Martin's character sneaks up with a great big rock and smashes Grog's head. He goes, now Steve's smartest man in village, you know. And that's what these people are. They
Yeah.
you know, they think eliminate you, you know, now they're going to be.
Yeah.
I love that. I probably didn't tell it right, but
No,
it,
no, no, that's perfect. Because no, that's exactly right. Like they'll by killing you off or killing your creative spark, that now they're better
yeah, they think
because
that it's going to
they
make them better, whatever.
don't want a guy like you sitting next to them, because then they look bad, you know. But if you both look bad, then maybe they'll look a little bit less bad than you, and you
Yeah,
know.
if you're, you know, I one time read that people, it's not like we, in this hierarchy, you know, we have a hierarchy of our friends. All we want to be is we just want to have a nicer car than our best friend, or just a house that has one more bedroom than than our friends. You know, not like we don't need to have a gigantic mansion. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
you know, if that's your goal. Um, but most people just want to have just a little bit, you know, better, you know. And if you're poor, you want to just have, you know, a little bit nicer bucket to pee in, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. A shinier shack.
Shinier
Yeah.
shack.
My
Yeah.
roof has less holes in it.
But
Yeah.
I think what the main takeaway from this thing is that not everybody is creative. And if you're creative, wow, God bless you. I mean, what a great gift you are to the world, because it's, you know, they're the men and women that are going to end racism or find the cure for cancer, or, you know, farmers aren't going to do that. Farmers do what farmers do. They're very methodical and make sure everything runs great, but they don't take risks and go out and do things, you know, outside of the norm, outside, you know, something that's really risky.
Yeah.
um, I remember there when this is in like, I mean, this is really aging me. This is like 1957, and
1950.
I was in like the fourth grade or something, fifth grade, and they had a contest. General Motors had this contest. You know, it was a nationwide contest for grammar school kids to design a car, and I designed this car, and um, you know, I didn't have supportive parents, and no one ever followed up and sent it in. But I kept the car for a long time. I kept the car till, matter of fact, I was like in my 30s when I found the box and it was still in there, and I just threw it away. But I looked at this car, and I got to tell you, it looks a lot like a modern today, um, um, like a Mercedes Golf Wing, you know, sports car. And I designed it in 1956. But
Oh my God.
nobody, and I made a model. I made it out of clay. I made, and you were supposed to put wheels on it. I didn't know I was going to do that, but I just made the chassis out of it, and it looked really super modern. And that's back when cars were just coming out of the, almost like the Model, the big frumpy looking Buicks and all
The
that
big
stuff.
jets.
Yeah, and I just wished I would have kept that model because it was so far, it was so ahead of its time. And I'd have little instances like that, but I didn't have parents that recognized that, In
Yeah.
in the fourth grade, there was a music class, and they had 3 violins. I really wanted to be in the class, but I was late. ADD. I get there, and the 3 violins were gone, so there was no violins or no other instruments for me. Well, I didn't have parents that would buy a violin. I mean, oh my God, that would be $30 or $40, or $5 to rent it, for about. So that was out of the question. I never even asked. I just figured that, if it's not there. And so I didn't, and I didn't have those kind of parents, but I'm now the kind of, like, I'm the grandparent that will just make sure if the kid has any creativity at all, I'm going to support it, just like your dad does you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
you're
I could do whatever creative pursuits I want. I don't get hassled.
You don't get hassled. I mean,
Yeah.
you know how amazing that is? Because you hear about, you see on these sitcoms all the time of, the Archie Bunker kind of a guy, or the All in the Family guy that just, you got to get out there and get a job. What do you think? Like my former wife, Karen, her dad, she wanted to be I forget, I don't know what she wanted to be, but it was something that was out of the ordinary. He just wouldn't have anything to do with it. You've got to take dictation skills and do all that so you can be a secretary, so you can be a secretary for the president of the company. So what are you thinking, running a company, But that's the way my parents' generation was. And a lot of people that are stuck in that box, because they haven't figured a way to support their own family.
I still kind of feel like that's a Cain and Abel thing, because like
It is Cain
you
and Abel.
almost don't want your kids to be more successful than you, because then what does that say about you if you had
It's a
the
reflection.
same?
It reflects you, the
Like
reflection
you could
of
have
them.
done that and now you haven't, so you're yada yada yada.
And this all comes back to one of the reasons why they don't like Jordan Peterson. His is like, grow up, be a man, be a woman. And what that means to him, or to me anyway, is accept the responsibility.
Yeah, he always, that's his big thing, is he he's talking to both men and women, but he's feels like there's no more conversations anymore about men with accepting responsibility and the sense of like growing up. It's do what you want to do, be comfortable, like follow your whatever, but
See,
no more accepting responsibility, and that's like
I have
big part of life.
I have difficulty with my son because he will say, "Hey, we'll get together tonight," and I won't hear anything from him. Well, when you tell me get together tonight, it means I'm going to not make any plans. I'm going to get together. For him, because I'm the father, if something better comes up, like a girl or his friends, I'm down on the list. Well, I can be an asshole about it, which I'm trying not to be, or be understanding about it. But I got to tell you, in the business world, I mean, I learned responsibility by being on a Ranger team behind the lines in Vietnam. And here's
Because
what
if you don't
happened.
show up when you say you're going to show up
If you
in
don't show
Nam, like
up at the AO, at the landing zone, not AO, but the LZ, at a certain time, when that helicopter comes out there, when the helicopter leaves, it leaves. If you're late, you're late. You're not going to get on the helicopter.
they'll think you're dead or something and just probably move on.
And you just learn this, that you're responsible for everybody on your team. We had a 5-man team. I'm responsible for them and they're responsible for me. And we all had our missions. Mine was to be on point, to look forward ahead, look up above and to the side. People in the back, what responsible for the radio, for the looking off to the sides and for the rear. So everybody had a position, and you get that ground into you. You come back from and get out of the military, and you go to college, and people are going like, "Hey, dude, yeah, skip school, skip a class." What's good? I'm like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, I don't think so."
Yeah.
You nothing.
Forgo all responsibilities. It will be fine. Your whole life will put itself together.
Yeah,
Well, it will because you can't stop it, but you'll needlessly suffer or whatever.
yeah, and being responsible too means just like, I mean, smoking weed. Okay, it's great, it's fun, and all of that stuff. But if you're not responsible to get yourself up and go to work the next day, you might better think about quitting smoking weed or drinking beer or any of those kinds of things. So, if you want to party, fine, but you have to do it responsibly.
Yeah.
And people don't think that.
Recently, I've gotten sick of how, I don't know, just like no responsibility, do whatever I want all day kind of thing, because it's summer, right? Don't have any school responsibilities. But I don't want to just stay up all night with my friends and then wake up whenever and then just roll into my day. Like I've been trying to my new system, it's not like a schedule yet, but I want it to be. I want to have some sort of schedule where I'm going to bed at least midnight, which is still pretty bad, still pretty late, but
That's okay.
it's better than it was before, which is like 2 or 3 in the morning, like
Mhm.
whenever I feel like going to bed. And I'm waking up at 9:30 or 9, like because I hear 30-minute difference doesn't really hurt your sleep schedule.
Mhm.
Then I exercise, and then I do maintain my environment. Yeah, like do a bunch of chores, and like my bed is made today. You can't see it, but I made my bed.
Right.
Like and then after that, I'll do something creative, like try to write or draw or do podcasts, and then take a break because what I did before was I'd wake up really late and go to bed really late and hang out with my friends till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I did that because the second I woke up, it was work, 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 do nothing but like clean or do try to do something creative, try to do like just like no break until I burnt out
Yeah.
and was so miserable I couldn't not stop.
Mm.
And then I'd hang out with everybody and feel real guilty about it because
And that's a
like,
vicious cycle that you can
yeah.
get into.
And it's almost like what keeps you in bed too, because why get out of bed in the morning if you're gonna work your ass off for no reward until you feel miserable and
Yeah.
it's
And see,
it I'm just sick of it. I just want to
good for
you're
you.
trying to get structure,
Yeah.
do something
Well,
different.
the other part of it for me is creating meaning in your life. And for me, if I just lay around and don't do anything, those 5 little girls in Cambodia aren't going to get fed,
Yeah.
and they're going to be back poor again.
Yeah.
it,
And be
it's easy
miserable.
to go back being poor. I mean, it's all it means is, if I stop the money flow, there's no rent for the house, there's no money for the food, and it means the mother has to do some kind of, and I don't mean to say this in a demeaning way, but she's illiterate. She has a third grade education, but
Yeah.
she grew
It's
up
just the
during Pol Pot when everybody was murdered for having an education. So she, the prime minister of Cambodia has a third grade education. It's like that was a
that's
big
the
deal.
culture, like you
So
can't,
what are you going to do with a third grade education? You can clean somebody's apartment, you can clean or stuff like that, and and I know if I miss that obligation, um, it's going to have a consequences. Well, I don't. One of the other things that you need to know when you set up taking on a big project like a family like that is
yeah.
not to make it a burden. Now it sounds like I just said a burden.
Yeah.
I stay out ahead of it, so I don't create it as a burden. I stay out ahead of it, trying to either I'll raise money from some of my friends. When I've got some big expenses, so I'm going to do a GoFundMe thing, and I want you to look at this video that I'm doing. So I'll try to stay out ahead of the money situation, so it doesn't strangle, it doesn't then, because if I'm dead, then they're dead. I mean, if I
Yeah.
can't produce it, the whole thing crumbles in.
I mean, that makes sense. It a lot of people were real sensitive about language nowadays. So saying something's a burden like that, it sounds really aggressive, right? People would get upset about that. But it's true in the sense that if something's putting a lot of pressure on you, like even if it was like your own kids, your own family, it that's going to reflect on your relationship with them too, like when you talk to them.
Well,
So you can't just like let it get out of control, you know?
here's a way you can put a burden on yourself. And I don't know how many units you're taking, but the average when I was in college was
I
15
think I'm
units.
taking
Huh?
5 next semester. I'm doing part-time because of psychology.
So I pushed my units up to 17 units a semester because I wanted to hurry. And and that created so much pressure on me, and I had to drop this out of this one class. And because I dropped out of that class, I went below the 15 units. And back in 1967, if you went below that, your college deferment went from a 2S to a whatever the number it was when you could be drafted. And I got drafted. I mean, I was going to be drafted one A or something. Yeah, I guess 1A or whatever it was. And I literally went down. I got creative. I went down to my draft board and I talked to them personally. Nobody thinks you can talk to your draft board, but they're just guys, sending these young men off to be murdered back then. But I said, look,
Fun.
I'll
Great guy.
volunteer if you let me stay one more semester. Let me finish out the semester so I can get my AA degree, and then I'll volunteer. I'll sign, whatever to volunteer. And they go, okay, fine. So they gave me they didn't draft. I mean, they gave me a deferment. I got my deferment back, I guess, with lower units. But that's when I knew I could talk my way out of shit, which is another part of the creative process.
Definitely.
Hey, I don't know if you want to not record this, but I want to show you this video that I've got.
I want to see it. I also saw you sent me something in an email too, but I wanted to talk to you in real life about it because I'm not lazy, but it's easier. And we could have like a dialogue back and forth about it instead of.
Okay, so let me just see if I can do this.
Why? So, what is your feelings that you are kind of the person in America?
We should be okay. So we're all over the world helping everybody in the world.
You can actually probably screen share this. You don't have to turn around your camera necessarily.
Nothing like what I think we should be doing. We should be cleaning up all the bombs that we drop. My mother always told me, you clean up your mess.
Right.
But we don't. We haven't, and I think it's because most people don't even know about it. So that's what I'm trying to do.
So what do you expect then? What do you expect of the world know about Cambodia?
My expectation? I haven't gone that far. I'm just that's too big of a question. I'm just working on even just telling the story. The way I describe it is Cambodia was in the shadow of the Vietnam War. So people only think about Vietnam War, and they don't want to talk about Vietnam War. So Cambodia gets dropped out, the whole bombing. And there's been new information that came out of more bombs were dropped on Cambodia than in all of World War II. And people in America don't even know much about it because it was all erased with Khmer Rouge. But before that time, we were allies. That's why I say betrayal, because when Pol Pot was in office, because he was fighting against Vietnam, we thought, well, he must be the good guy. So Reagan and Thatcher in England gave money to Pol Pot, and they had no idea what he was doing at the time. So it's like, so disgraceful. This is what happens when nobody in the State Department is Cambodian or speaks Khmer.
I think before Pol Pot, they also have a lot of issues about Vietnam and also America. But sounds strange. Why during that Pol Pot in the middle of that situations? Why anyone quiet? Why any country quiet not having Cambodia?
Why they didn't come and help?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know too. Because I would have gone. I mean, that's what I thought I was doing in Vietnam. We should have been here.
as a soldier, I was in the army.
It's very tough topic.
I know it's a topic, and it twists and winds, and that's why I'm writing about it, because it's so nobody writes about it.
I want to read about your book.
Well,
when it's finished.
I love that. Also, did you edit that? That video was better than the one you showed me the other day.
Christin edited.
Yeah, that's good. She's good.
Yeah. So you liked it? Did it?
Mhm.
It could have.
I
It
did.
still could be edited down a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Also, next time you show me a video, you can screen share, so it will
Oh,
make your whole screen. I tried to tell you, but it was loud.
Too
But
late.
the volume was really good on it, actually, so I didn't complain that much.
you know
'cause
that was
we'll
totally.
probably have a lot of audio listeners.
I didn't even know who that woman was. That was a total by accident, and I just found it the other day. When Christin was here, and so she edited that. She found it. Here's how Christin is so amazing. She went into my. I've got a new PC computer,
Mhm.
and she went in and found an editing program that was in the program.
Yeah.
Never
They
saw
come
it
with a
before.
lot of operating systems. They're hidden. They're not like an
They're
app.
hidden.
They're
I
like
know
you
they're
gotta go
hidden.
find them.
She found it and made it work. It was amazing.
That's
And she's a Mac person, but she can do anything. I mean, I'm
yeah.
always impressed by what she can do. But
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you what you thought about that, because it
I
really
really like it.
good, because I want to use that like for a lead piece for either maybe do something on a Facebook or promote the book or promote raising money for writing the book, because I spent a lot of my money researching all the stuff about the war, but not like just going to a library. I mean, going to Vietnam and going to Cambodia, and I spent tens of thousands of. I probably spent, I don't know, $50,000 in just researching that, and I thought I should try to raise money to try to pay myself back, rather than, because the book, like I said, it's a 3-year process, and I've done all the research and I've got a lot of it written, but I need to now either do Kickstarter, and I don't know, I thought maybe you could help me run that program.
I'd love to help you run the program. I'm
Okay.
not good at editing like Christin though.
I don't care about the editing. I don't need editing. What I need is manager, somebody that, see, what you're good at is you show up and set up the Zoom and make sure everything's working, and that's
I'm young-minded. I could do
and
the
young-minded, and you'll come up with
weird computer junk.
yeah, and you don't have to learn the word processor.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if we still had word processors? I don't even know what that is.
I'm not sure if I even know what it is.
I want to Google it. I'm sorry. Just
Yeah.
gonna word processor.
So you're not recording this, are you? Now, are we done?
Oh, we're still recording.
Still recording? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought why not?
Well, why not? This is the creative part of being creative, is like
this is the word processor.
Word process. Yeah, there we go.
Is this it? Is this it?
That's it.
That's it? That's what you were writing on?
Those are word processors. Yeah.
It looks like a machine that prints out receipts.
It was an IBM Selectra. It's one down at the bottom.
This guy?
No. Over on these ones down.
Over here?
Yeah, it's one of those or something. But
it's
it's like a typewriter, but it has a memory in it.
Oh, so it's like.
Yeah, like that. They all were different, but there was a whole bunch of them that came out. But they were all called, that's what they were called, word processors.
No, wait, this is so weird. This is the weirdest thing. It looks like a keyboard that's 90s. It looks 90s, the big fat monitors.
Yeah.
My dad still has a bunch of those.
Oh, I know. I saw. Yeah.
A million of them. He's got them at his office. He's got them upstairs. Oh,
yeah. Can't throw them away.
A whole garage full of them. No, you can't throw them away.
Yeah. Now, how did you do that? So that's called screen sharing?
Screen share? Yeah, it's here. I'll stop. Oh wait, I can share more than one screen. I'm not going to do that, but I could.
So how do you do that? Show me
at the bottom of this window, when you move your mouse, it should show the menu at the bottom. It's hiding it right now. And there's a little green screen share.
screen.
thing
Oh, right there.
there.
So
So
if
you
I
could
click
share
that,
your videos that way. if you
Most
wanted to.
disabled participant screen sharing. Okay. So
Oh,
I
I have to allow you to allow record files, allow multi-pin. Or wait,
okay. So let's try.
multiple. That should do it. Can you do it now? I can put you in the waiting room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Select a
I wanted
window
to.
application. I don't know what that means. I'm lost already.
Select what window you want to screen share. Just do the first one. The first window is everything. But
Like-
you could say do like just your internet window if you wanted to, but don't click on that.
I don't
Just
even
do
know.
everything, that way it's just easier not to think about it.
Files, Dropbox. Oh. Okay. Never mind. So here's my request: is you go look at Kickstart. And
Kickstarter. I
and
know
maybe,
what Kickstarter is.
yeah, and maybe like I'm going to do a GoFundMe for my girls, but I thought that particular clip is really about writing a book about Vietnam and Cambodia, and that's the one I want to get published, and I've got a lot of it done.
If you can do the advertising for it, I could totally help you set up the Kickstarter thing.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we touch base tomorrow if you're free?
Yeah.
You know, at some time, and then let's discuss it, and I'll look on it too, because I've got the resources of Random House and all these other places that I can, drop things onto or whatever. But
Here, wait, I'm gonna end our podcast. It was real great, guys.
Great. Bye.
Yeah, because I also want to talk.
Your excuse